Good day everyone, especially to our dear panelists and professor. I am Michelle B. Maulana, together with my co-researcher, Mr. Jason Gentica, Ms. Aba Crisa Ebasco, Ms. A. Self-Figuration, and Ms. Shane Buendia. Today, we present our research entitled Supplemental Material in Teaching Fraction for Grade 3 Learners. Through the years, mathematics gained its reputation as one of the most feared and hated subjects not only by the learners but also by some adults. Learners dislike math because they think it's dull and they don't get excited about numbers and formulas the way they get excited about history, science, languages, or other subjects that are easier to connect to. They see math as abstract and irrelevant figures that are hard to understand. This research is expected to provide contribution for the learners who is struggling in the said topic. An elementary teacher for this can be used as a material to help learners in their needs. This study also benefit researchers in this field, for this can be used as reference for further study in teaching fraction. Let's start of the statement of the problem number 1 that will be presented by Mr. Jason Gentica.
Statement of the problem number 1. How was the supplemental material in teaching fraction for grade 3 learners was developed? The supplemental material was developed through the following steps. Number 1, planning and gathering data from the teachers and the current curriculum guide used by the school. Number 2, determining the competencies that will be included to the material. Number 3, studying the current material that is available in the specific competencies and gathering other information that can be used for the material. Number 4, designing the material by adding catching elements. Number 5, consultation with the research professor for the content and grammar of the material. Number 6, review and revision of the direction and activities given. And finally, number 7, administration of the supplemental material to the experts for evaluation.
Statement of the problem 2. What is the level of acceptability of supplemental materials in teaching fractions for a grade 3 learner in terms of objectives, content, organization and usefulness, and language and style? The table shows that the developed supplemental material in teaching fractions for grade 3 learners was rated very much acceptable by the teacher respondents. This implies that the objectives provided in the material were clear and attainable, directs the learners to obtain specific skills and relevant to the needs of the learners. It describes that the objectives is an imperative part for the development of a supplemental material. The table reveals that with respect to content as evaluated by elementary teachers, the verbal weighted mean was 4.57 with a verbal interpretation of very much acceptable. This may imply that the content of the developed supplemental material provides clear direction, serve to enhance learners' skills and fraction, and direct learners to attain the objectives provided.
It can be seen on the table the teacher respondents rated the developed supplemental material in terms of organization and usefulness as very much acceptable. This implies that the material was organized according to the objectives of the lesson and supports the existing material in teaching fractions. It can be noticed on the table that the developed supplemental material in teaching fraction for grade 3 learners was rated very much acceptable with an overall weighted mean of 4.51. It may imply that the developed material utilize simple words and statements that are suitable to the grade 3 learners' understanding and presents clear concept and flow of ideas. This describes the importance of proper language in developing a supplemental material in learning.
Let's proceed to the table 5. Composite table on the level of acceptability of the developed supplemental material in teaching fraction for grade 3 learners in terms of different aspects. It can be gleaned from the table that the developed material in teaching fraction for grade 3 learners was very much acceptable in different aspects as evaluated by the respondents. The objectives got the highest weighted mean with 4.74, followed by the content with 4.57. The total grand mean obtained was 4.57 with a verbal interpretation of very much acceptable.
Lastly, the statement of the problem number 3 will be presented by Mr. Jason Gentica.
Statement of the problem number 3. What are the comments and suggestions of the elementary teachers to improve the developed supplemental material in teaching fraction for grade 3 learners? The developed supplemental material was evaluated by the teachers of Baras Elementary School. The comments and suggestions for the improvement of the developed supplemental material were: the material can be adapted by the teacher and the learner to be used in teaching and learning fractions. None and same response. On the other hand, it was suggested to give more examples, exercises that was suited for the pupils, and give more numbers, at least 6 in a row, and congratulations. Thus, the developed supplemental material can be used in teaching fraction for grade 3 learners, and it can be still enhanced and improved based on the suggestions of the respondent.
In conclusions, based on the summary of findings, the following are concluded. Number 1, the developed supplemental material can be used as instructional material in teaching fraction for grade 3 learners. Number 2, the developed supplemental material in teaching fraction for grade 3 learners were very much acceptable in terms of objectives, content, organization and usefulness, and language and styles. And lastly, the developed material was following the current material in teaching fraction and can be used in teaching and learning fraction.
Based on the conclusion, the following are the recommendations. Number 1, add more examples and activities suited for the intended learners. Number 2, determine the effectiveness of the supplemental material in teaching fraction for grade 3 learners. Number 3, utilize the material as springboard for the future material development in a specific competency.
And this is the presentation of Group Baras Extension.